Hello, I'm Gil Zilkha. Welcome to my channel, Essential Classical Music, where we look at the best recordings of the classical music repertoire. This video is taken out of my larger video on solo vocal works. I hope you enjoy it. All right, next we come to Mahler, Gustav Mahler, late Romantic, of course, known for his colossal symphonies, but also known for his vocal writing as well, which he did figure out how to mix into his symphonies as well. And starting with one of the iconic works of classical music in general, Das Lied von der Erde, the Song of the Earth, which is an ode to basically the earth and life's pleasures while we're here. And that's the key phrase, while we're here, because there's also the bittersweet knowledge that it's all fleeting and at some point we have to say goodbye. And that's really starkly brought across in the final song of the six movements, Der Abschied, the farewell, which is half the piece. It's roughly half an hour. And the work is for an alto, tenor, and orchestra, although you can also substitute a baritone for the alto. And it's the alto that's featured in that final Abschied. So really it's thought of more as a alto-dominated vehicle, but just a gorgeous, sublime work. And my top choice for this one is an old classic, mono, but fairly good sounding mono. Kathleen Ferrier, Julius Patzak, with Bruno Walter conducting the Vienna Philharmonic in 1952. And this is just such a passionate, committed version from all involved. Ferrier was indelibly associated with this work. She was well known for it in concert. She sings it with such commitment. Every single phrase, she just really delves into the emotions, especially in the final Abschied. The delicacy with which she sings the final ewig phrase is just so gorgeous. And then you have Bruno Walter, who knew Mahler, premiered the work after Mahler's death. But he certainly knew Mahler's thoughts on the work, and he was a musician who there's a famous interview with Walter where he says, if a conductor has not experienced passionate love, he could never conduct Tristan und Isolde, or if he does not experience nature, he could never conduct the pastoral. So he understood the importance of really understanding the emotions of a work, and in this case you had Ferrier singing about saying goodbye to the earth, and she was literally on the verge of death herself. So you have these two artists who were associated with the work, who were artistically simpatico with each other. Add to that Julius Patzak, who had this strong tenor voice. It was a little bit past its prime, but he sings with wonderful character. And then the Vienna Philharmonic plays with great passion as well, very attuned to Walter, especially the string section, just really impassioned, and fairly good sound. There's a little bit of harshness. It doesn't have the quite the fullness of your best stereo recordings, but for me, when the performance is this good, I'll take what I can get. I see it as an aligning of the stars of just great artistry and fairly good mono sound. I will mention, however, that there is also a recording of the live concert that was given one day after the recording sessions. This is on Tara, and ironically enough, the sound actually has a little bit more clarity to it. It's a little bit less harsh. It doesn't have quite the fullness and depth of the studio recording, but it actually is a little bit, to my ear, it's a little bit easier on the ear. And in addition to that, it's also a very committed, intense live performance. So I would also recommend this one if you love that studio recording as much as I do. Now, Ferrier did possess a sort of a unique tone. This is kind of this really deep, dark alto tone. It's not always to everyone's taste. Her heir apparent in this work was Janet Baker, who had a little bit more of a lighter, maybe more kind of a vibrant sound. And my recommendation for Baker in this work is this live recording from 1970 with Waldemar Kment on tenor and Raphael Kubelik in the Bavarian Radio Symphony. Baker just sounds gorgeous, just really sensitive and poignant, very, very touching, just a gorgeous interpretation. And Kment, he didn't have quite the powerful ringing tenor, but he had a nice depth to his sound, a nice warmth and expressivity. And then Kubelik, one of the great Mahler conductors, very, very energetic and sensitive as well. The recording quality is fairly good. It's not as quite as good as the most detailed full stereo recordings, but it's good enough, especially when the performance is as great as this one. However, if you do want a better sound, more kind of demonstration quality, you might say, ironically, a little earlier recording is the one I recommend for that. This version from the Chicago Symphony with Fritz Reiner and Maureen Forrester on alto, and Richard Lewis on tenor. This comes from 1959, and in this latest remastering, it sounds wonderful, really detailed, very present, gorgeous playing from the Chicago Symphony. You know, you can always count on them under Reiner for the detail. And his interpretation, it's a very natural interpretation as he tended towards. It's nothing is imposed on the music, so it really beautifully comes across. Forrester sings a little bit more of a reserved style, but it's beautifully poignant, very, very nuanced and sensitive. One of the most beautiful offsheets you'll ever hear. And then Richard Lewis sings very heroically with a beautiful tone, as well as poetically as well. So this is a wonderful version, particularly if you're wanting better sound quality. And then I mentioned that you can have this with a baritone voice alongside the tenor. And the famous version of that, of course, is Dietrich Fischer-Dieskau. This is also a very good sounding recording from 1966. This is with that renowned Mahler conductor Leonard Bernstein with the Vienna Philharmonic. And Fischer-Dieskau's interpretation, first of all, is masterful. He was really well suited to Mahler, both dramatically and vocally. And the combination of him and Bernstein, the emotions, you almost worry that they'll sort of bubble over, and at times it almost feels like they will, but they never quite do. It's actually a very nuanced interpretation. The final offsheet is just heavenly in its delicacy. Just really a gorgeous recording that I would not want to be without. And then you have on tenor James King, who is very dramatically powerful. So really wonderful version. Even if you generally prefer alto versions, I still would recommend that you at least listen to this one. Now, he did do an earlier one, Fischer-Dieskau, in 1959 with the Philharmonia, with Paul Kletzky conducting and Murray Dickey on tenor. This is actually coupled with the Fourth Symphony of Mahler that I recommended in my symphony discussion. So you're probably going to want this anyways. When he was a few years younger, he tended to have Fischer-Dieskau a smoother tone, and you do hear that here. It's very vocally smooth and present. I would actually argue that he was a little bit more nuanced in the later one, ironically. I know there's this reputation that he kind of got barky and shouty, but he really, I don't think, did that too much in that Bernstein recording. This one's really a little bit more straightforward, more of the proverbial natural interpretation, which works well too. Really gorgeously sung and beautifully played, and Murray Dickey is a wonderfully expressive tenor soloist as well. So this is a version that I would also not want to be without, even though I would, if you're coming to Fischer-Dieskau first in this work, I would still tend towards the Bernstein. A few more versions to discuss. One comes from that renowned Mahler conductor Jascha Horenstein. This is a live recording from 1972 with Alfreda Hodgson on alto, and John Mitchison is the tenor. This is with the BBC Northern Symphony. Pretty good sound quality. It's got maybe just a little bit of harshness for being a live recording, but a fairly good sound quality. Horenstein was just loved this work. One of his famous quotes is that the worst thing for him about dying is not being able to hear Das Lied von der Erde again. So you can imagine that he conducted it very passionately, and he does. He tended towards slower tempos. He delved into every nook and cranny. Very, very powerful in the dramatic moments, but mostly it's the sensitivity. It's a really, really moving version. Hodgson had a very strong, beautiful tone, and Mitchison, not the most dramatic or powerful of tenors, but he also sings very sensitively, which goes along with the interpretation. So this is one I would also not want to be without. Another version I want to recommend if you are interested in good sound quality is this one from 1963, good stereo sound with the Concertgebouw playing beautifully under Eugen Jochum. This is with Nan Merriman and Ernst Hayfliger on tenor. Jochum conducts it in a very sensuous way. It's very flexible. Really, really gorgeous sounding. If you especially like to kind of take a bath in that, I like to call it like taking a bath in beautiful orchestral sounds, orchestral color. This is a version I recommend for that. And Merriman, very strong, powerful American mezzo, beautiful op sheet. Hayfliger, another one of those ringing, heroic tenors who could also be soft and nuanced as well. So this is an excellent version. Next, I want to mention one that you might be surprised I'm just now coming to it, but this is one of the most famous versions, the Klemperer. Otto Klemperer conducting the Philharmonia and New Philharmonia in the early 60s with Christa Ludwig on alto and Fritz Wunderlich on tenor. First of all, the voices. You're not going to find better sounding soloists, and they both sing very dramatically, and especially Wunderlich. He's Wunderlich. He just had this amazing tone and amazing strength and power to his voice. Almost sounds too easy for him. What other mere mortals struggle with. So he's a must, and Ludwig also sings very poignantly. Klemperer brings that typical Klemperer kind of the gravitas. The one kind of criticism that I have is that for a work like this that's so sensuous and dramatic, especially in the inner movements, I feel like there could be a little bit more flexibility in movement. And then the final op sheet, to my ears, the end of it just sort of happens. That's just the way it's always sounded to me. I don't feel like I'm being transported into the next world like you do on some. But others hear it differently, and I did mention in my video on the consensus reference versions that this is one of them for sure. And it's definitely, you cannot fault the sound or the vocal production. So still one that I would also not want to be without. And then finally, I want to mention one, a live recording from 1939. So not the best of sound, although fairly clear and present once you get past that. This is a very passionate version, also with the Concertgebouw, conducted by Karl Schuricht. And this is with Kirsten Thorborg on alto, and Karl Martin Uhlmann is the tenor. These are both Swedish singers. Really dramatic performance, very sensitively conducted by Schuricht. Uhlmann sings, he just really goes for it on that tenor solo, very dramatically. He even gets applause at the end of his final number. And then Thorborg, with her, she was a Wagnerian mezzo. Think of kind of a lower sitting Kirsten Flagstad, very passionate and expressive, but also very hushed. in that final Abschied. Just one of the most beautiful offshoots you'll ever hear. And apparently it really got to the audience because infamously in the middle of it, this lady gets up and says very loudly, Deutschland über alles, Herr Schuricht. And then you hear this sort of murmur through the crowd. So obviously a Nazi sympathizer who apparently you would assume was not a fan of having a Jewish composer being performed at that time. But she doesn't spoil the show. It continues. And in the end, that's more of a historical footnote to what is really a fantastic recording. Thanks for watching. I wish you all a great day and happy listening.